Segoli Squad, greetings everybody and welcome back to the Iroquois Oneida History Channel. My name is Antonio Dockstader and I'm a member of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin. Today's presentation is going to be about the Oneida relationship with George Washington and also the Marquis de Lafayette. So as everybody knows, George Washington was the first president of the United States, but he was also the first general of the Continental Army, which was prior to the formation of America. So the Oneida people were one of America's only and first indigenous allies. The Stockbridge Mohegan were also allies of America. So we were basically the main two. So the Oneida Nation in September 1775, Shenandoah, who was an Oneida Pine Tree chief, accompanied the Reverend Samuel Kirkland to meet with General Washington in Boston. So that was one of the first interactions and direct meetings between the Oneidas and George Washington. And in May 1776, George Washington met with the Mohawks, Oneidas, and Onondaga delegation that were touring the area and viewing the army. A lot of this had to do with which side the Six Nations would support during the Revolutionary War. They were being openly pressured by the British to join their side. And the Americans initially pushed for neutrality from the Six Nations Confederacy, but eventually also asked for their help and direct assistance. On March 22nd, 1777, George Washington met with some Oneidas at Morristown, New Jersey. And one of his orders to his subordinates was to the Marquis de Lafayette, who was a French noble who sailed and arrived in North America in 1777 and was later commissioned by Continental Congress as a major general. And he served with Washington in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and also in the Battle of Brandywine September 11th, 1777 and received a wound. And in 1777, in the winter, he spent that winter at Valley Forge. In April of 1778, he had some French engineers help design an Oneida fort. And his goal was to recruit some Oneidas to join Washington's army at Valley Forge. On April 23rd, 1778, he was able to recruit and enlist 47 Oneidas who volunteered to go to Valley Forge. And on May 15th, actually, 1778, the Oneidas arrived at Valley Forge encampment. And they said that George Washington personally hosted the Oneida war chief, Heinrich, later Dockstader, at a supper that first night. And he ordered the Marquis de Lafayette to take a group of the Oneidas to, he wanted them to spy to see if the British were going to be advancing from Philadelphia. So that's what he did. He was a commander at the Battle of Barren Hill on May 27, 1078, when the British attacked and the Oneidas fought with the British Mounted Dragoons. A month later, though, in June, the Oneidas returned home. And as the war continued, the Oneidas continued to support the army, but they more spying and messengers instead of in direct combat. On June 27, 1782, 100 Oneida warriors greeted George Washington at Schenectady, New York, as he visited the area. And on July 1783, the Oneidas then greeted Washington at Fort Schuyler, right near their homelands, as he toured the area. On a personal note, they were also given Oneida names to these two individuals. So the Marquis de Lafayette was known as Gayela, our great warrior. And George Washington was known by the Six Nations as Oneidas, or he destroys towns, as a result of the Sullivan campaign against the Iroquois Confederacy. And it's also a letter name for all presidents, the same name. Interesting, in 1824, the Marquis returned to America, and he returned to the Utica area, and he asked to meet with the Oneidas, and a few Oneidas were able to meet with him in 1825, and then he sailed home later that fall. So this is the personal stories of these two individuals in history that were directly acquainted with the Oneida Nation. Please give a like, a comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'd appreciate that. Yamoko.